Well, speaking of Monique Ryan, the Teals are in an interesting position at the moment because they've been very quiet when it comes to stage 3 tax cuts. Now, we know Anthony Albanese has been pressed for weeks now about whether or not he's going to actually bring these tax cuts to the people with the budget in July. Have a listen to his weasel words on Triple M Adelaide just the other day.
We have no change to our plans. We, of course, have said that tax relief is really important. I mean, that's one way that you put more money into people's pockets, and tax cuts.
So they're going to happen.
Important. Well, tax cuts will happen in July, and we're
the same as what we're committed to.
We're committed to that. Well, we haven't changed our position on that.
Okay.
Well, you'd think that the people challenging Anthony Albanese the most to say, yes, we will have these tax cuts would be the Teal members, because here in New South Wales, 3 of the top 5 electorates that will benefit from these tax cuts are Teal-held seats. The tax cuts will benefit people mostly from $45,000, but those who earn over $180,000 will benefit the most, getting about $9,000 off their tax payment. Well, the electorate of Wentworth, North Sydney and Warringah all have well over 15,000 earners in those electorates who would benefit from these cuts. And yet the Teals, Joe, have said nothing at all about them. You'd think they'd be standing up for their constituents. And they campaigned on honesty, integrity. So wouldn't they be saying, hey, this was promised, it must happen?
It's an interesting one. And there's another Teal seat as well, the WA one.
Yes, Curtin.
Which the Teals picked up over there, which everyone keeps forgetting about. But and the other one, strangely enough, of course, is Tanya Plibersek's seat of Sydney.
Yes.
And again, Green seats are often very affluent as well, and the Greens have that in their sights too. The problem is, I think, with a lot of these seats, especially somewhere like Wentworth, which is the wealthiest seat in the country by a country mile, is that people actually have more money than they need, more money than they know what to do with. And so they can actually afford to say, oh no, like those billionaires who signed the letter saying, please make us pay more tax. The problem is that these tax cuts are actually not meant to favour the wealthy in the here or now. They're targeted at aspirational voters who might not even qualify for that 180 plus bandwidth now, but will in, 5, 10, 15 years' time, when suddenly 180 grand a year isn't that much money, but is average. I mean, do you remember Mark Latham in 2004 got roasted for saying that, if you're living in Sydney, if you're on 80 grand, that's not that much money. And they're like, what are you talking about, 80 grand? You're fabulously wealthy. Now, imagine anybody saying that now. So think of the tax reform that was needed then, and advocated by people like Mark Latham perhaps, and to where we are now. So it's meant to address bracket creep, not target the wealthy, but of course it's being painted by, again, the crazy left who, Javier would have so much fun with, who say, oh, this is all just, a gift to the rich. So that's the problem. And they're saying that, or we can just take this cash grab from the rich and redistribute it to the poor and everything will be fine. That is not actually the point. And if it was the point, they shouldn't have said they were going to do it before the election. And that is the golden rule. It doesn't matter. Even if the stage 3 tax cuts are bollocks, even if they were crafted by Satan himself, well, then in that case, you shouldn't have said you were going to do it. But you did say you were going to do it. You did it to prove your aspirational credentials and to show that Labor was no longer a party of class warfare. And in order to make good on that, you actually have to go through with it. So I hope to God that Anthony Albanese does do that, because Labor's credibility and survival is probably resting on it.
I don't think they're going to break their election promise breaking streak. And certainly these Teal seats aren't going to do it, because I thought exactly as you said, Joe. I'm like, these are the guys wealthy enough not to care so much about these tax breaks and whether they do or do not end up in their pockets. The people that this will affect most are middle earners, middle Australia. So if we want to start looking at which seats the Labor government should be worried about, they've got a heck of a lot more worries on their plate than these 5 Teal ones.
Exactly.
Because it's those middle earners who are gasping for any kind of cost of living relief right now, and probably even budgeted on this since they have been promised it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course, that doesn't seem to be enough for the Albanese government to actually carry through on it. There's no reason why, if he was going to deliver on them as promised, as legislated, he would have emphatically said so by now.
I'm thinking, and I don't know, honestly, but I'm thinking and I'm hoping that what he's doing is making everyone just a tiny bit nervous about it, getting a bit of a will he, won't he thing going. And then when he says, yes, I am going to do it, people think, oh, thank God Albo's given us the tax cuts. And that way he gets the credit for it. It looks like his and Labor's decision.
That is manipulative BS at a time when this means genuine. Like, this means a lot to so many everyday Aussies right now who were promised this money back, and due to the creep, the bracket creep. I mean, you're not actually getting way more money back. I mean, compared to previous years, this isn't some glorious influx of money. This is a very modest tax break indeed, but every cent counts right now for so many families in Australia. So if that is his ridiculous strategy,
I don't know. I may have just totally burbled him, but
that is utterly manipulative.
I'm hoping that's what it is, because if not, then all the signs are pointing to the backflipping on it. So I'm just hoping that is the...
I'm not so sure I agree with either of you about people in these Teal seats not counting on this tax cut. I mean, many of them are trying to purchase their third Tesla, Liz, and this $9,000 will come in really handy.
This will come as a real shock to them.
I think in somewhere like Wentworth, for example, right? So you would have really, really super rich people in mansions, and then you would have a lot of renters in apartments around, say, just east of sort of Darlinghurst and King's Cross and that sort of stuff. So that bunch of people wouldn't get it at all. Well, they get the bit for the bits above 45,000, but that big break above 180, they wouldn't even come close to that. But and then there's all the super rich people who wouldn't even notice it in their bank accounts. The seats I'm thinking of, like Liz says, a seat which I always come back to, a seat like Lindsay, which has which is a really interesting seat. It's based around Penrith, which is held by Labor at the state level, and yet even with the Libs getting an absolute shellacking at the last election, Labor still didn't pick it up at the federal level. And it's that kind of seat, and people are wondering why, and they're thinking, because the cost of housing there's a lot of people in the foothills, the Blue Mountains, that sort of stuff, McMansions and everything. The cost of housing there means you've got to be on a fair bit of coin just to kind of survive, but you're still mortgaged up to the hilt. You're still trying to get by. And so they stick with the Libs because they think that the Libs are the ones who are looking after that kind of voter who is, up to their neck in mortgage repayments, needs that money, is on, a six-figure salary, but that doesn't make them ridiculously wealthy. Those are the kind of people that Labor needs to win back, and those are the kind of people who are going to be hit if they don't go through with the stage 3 tax cuts.
Well, I hope they're watching, Joe, because that was a great sermon. Give us our stage 3 tax cuts. You said you would. Come on, cough it up.